I don't feel like hosting. Someone else do it.
I got last time, Ritz, it's you.
Oh, have you started recording?
Yes.
Oh, there's your intro. Hi, we're all unorganized. I'm coming off acid reflux, and this is Dissonant Waves. Now, since I'm hosting this, we are no longer going to be a music podcast, but instead we're going to be a business podcast, determining business strategies to form your own independent company and become a self-made billionaire, which is called putting out terrible advice towards women as we secretly traffic them in the background. With me are my hosts, Dominic and Trix.
Hello. I'm the woman they are going to be trafficking.
Exactly.
And I am the stop sign.
And because we have already been told that we'll have no financial backing if we're doing this, we are now pivoting back to our music podcast, and we've got some albums to
Well, you're getting financial backing?
No, we're told that we just won't do it from that way. Which, honestly, grifting people was my way of becoming a self-made millionaire. Now I'm going to have to find something more honest. Speaking of truly honest people, we're covering the Smiths today.
And I want to hear a yes or no from you when before we cover the Smiths, like right when we start talking about them.
I can say I can already tell you the answer. The answer is yes. The Queen is indeed dead.
Yes, but should I take a shot of absinthe in celebration from this unopened 200 milliliter bottle I bought on my birthday?
I'm going to ask you a different question. Does it matter if I say no?
Yes, because I actually am like saving it for the special occasion, and I don't know if this is the special occasion.
Covering the Smiths.
Well, we're also
I don't think
honoring
covering
somebody.
the Smiths is.
Yeah, we're honoring the dead.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think I'll put my takes about the Cream beforehand, so we'll I'm going to instead deflect this question off to Dominic as I list all the albums that we're doing this week. We're doing the Cream, the Smiths, The Queen is Dead. We are doing Ball Park Music's Puddinghead, and then Dominic has brought back the Muse versus Radiohead debate, in which can surely only create the hottest takes that we've had on this podcast by doing Muse's Hullabaloo Soundtrack and Radiohead's OK Computer.
Indeed.
We were supposed to do this episode 5 weeks ago, and then I believe I caught gastro.
Correct.
And then you two did something else, and then we did the draft.
We watched American Psycho.
Ah, okay. So basically, you were getting into that Morrissey grind set.
We were.
I'm done hosting.
Oh, all right, cool. Thanks. So I mean, yes, take a shot when we do the Smiths, but
okay.
Before we do the Smiths, I want to talk about the perennial unfavorites. Well, every time Ritz chooses them, it's never their week.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I was kind of listening to them again this morning. Like, how come every time I pick this band, it's during one of these types of fucking weeks?
I mean, look.
Well, then you'll be happy to know my hot take of the week.
I will be. But until then, yes, we are doing Ball Park Music's third album, Puddinghead, their 2014 record. Yeah,
I mean, you did put them against Phoebe Bridgers and fucking Drop Mask Replica. I feel like it had a chance then.
I know, I just like Punisher more than Every Night the Same Dream. But yes, Puddinghead, their third album, which was before Every Night the Same Dream, came out in 2014. It was actually probably their biggest album to date when they had put it out. Just in terms of kind of initial reception, I think people will probably go more back to Happiness and Surrounding Suburbs now, which I think is wrong. I think the next two albums after that were all good, and I've now just occurred to me that we've done three of their albums three of their consecutive albums now by doing in Puddinghead. We've managed to link those up, and then just randomly done their last album as well. We've picked them in such a weird order that there's basically no like context of what they sounded like the last time. Sometimes, but maybe we did Museum last. I can't remember.
We did actually.
We did. Okay. We do have the context of how they sounded before then, fresh in our heads if we can remember. Puddinghead. I think I picked this one because Trix was having a shit day. I'm like, you know what? I'll pick the most complainy Ballpark album.
That's fair.
Yeah. So Trix, your hot take?
This is my favorite album of the week.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not surprised.
Whoa. Okay. We're choosing violence today.
I have takes about Radiohead and Muse.
And you just weren't going to beat the Ball Park Depression album.
I mean, I have takes about The Queen is Dead. I guess we can get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. But for now, it's Puddinghead.
Yes.
Well, Chicks, since it's your favorite of the week, you want to start with a song to die. I can't figure out what's the word when that science thing for cutting people open.
Dissect.
Dissect. Thank you. I knew it was die something, but I was thinking diject. I'm like, it's definitely not. That's probably not even a word.
I'm not sure. Let me pull up the track listing real quick.
She only loves me when I'm there.
Goes off live. Absolutely.
This is like the perfect like angsty but in a fun way. Just kind of indie pop album I enjoy.
Honestly, this is when I first heard this album. This was the first Ball Park Music album I actually like heard in full. Like I'd heard snippets of Museum and stuff, but never listened to it in full before I listened to Puddinghead. And this is basically the exact type of music I expect a band called Ball Park Music to be putting out.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, I guess I would think more baseball-y music. I think Petite League would be a nice runner-up too.
Yeah, but Ball Park Music sounds a lot more indie of a name than it does like an actual baseball soundtrack.
Yeah, maybe.
They're in similar camps.
Yeah. You gotta also remember that. I mean, I know I play it, so it's a bit ironic. Baseball is not our main sport here by far.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're a bit on Struggle Street there with the baseball.
They played Struggle Street at the last.
America though.
Was it?
No. Baseball is actually, I think it's only Japan where it is.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
baseball is not the great American sport anymore.
No, it's football. I'm pretty sure that.
Yeah, American football. Baseball is like a weird niche that's still kind of mainstream, but still kind of niche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like hockey.
Baseball and hockey very much occupy the exact same space.
Ball Park Music and hockey, Dad.
I say this as somebody from a a city that has a hockey team as like their only draw.
I say this as someone who lives in a city with 2 baseball teams and a hockey team. But yes, this album, like, this is the thing, right? This is a good album. I quite like it. I think the cover art's very beautiful. The art direction's really nice. Like this is my least favorite only by circumstance. I don't want to let that. I don't want to let
that's the Dominic answer.
I don't want to let that get in the way of anything.
I mean, I'm trying to put this in remembering that as well. That I probably listened to this album a lot more throughout my lifetime, especially growing up, than I did any of the other albums. So it's kind of like I could just go the full absolute kid in me and say, look, I listened to this one more, so it's better.
I mean, that's a good barometer sometimes, yeah.
I'm telling you, there's some albums this week in which Puddinghead definitely beats it. But that's neither here or there. That's more actually dissect this one. And I think what's kind of interesting about this record as well is that outside of it kind of just being different sounding to every one of the other fucking albums we picked this week, we actually do get quite a variety of genres on this. Like Tripping the Light Fantastic is basically near a disco track at times.
Yeah.
And then Teenager Pie, the literal song before it and the song afterwards are both these kind of slow burning tracks. I mean, Teenager Pie is really kind of calm and yet probably the angstiest fucking song on here.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's the most like, well, it's basically a song about teenage angst. I mean, there's a good line about getting the gun out and shooting it.
I mean, Next Life Already is pretty up there as well.
Yeah, Next Life Already feels it doesn't feel as angsty. It feels like in this whole kind of, I mean, lyrically, it's one of those songs that repeats itself quite a lot, but it changes all the kind of like last words of each line. It's it has this theme of not wanting to break his perfect record as kind of a way of trying to say like there's things that I want to do, but this is kind of like already what I'm associated with doing, and I'm kind of scared to break that. And like,
And,
there's some interesting lines in there. Like there's talks obviously about suicide in there. I'm pretty sure there's a blowing out my brains is a
right.
it's one of the things, and then there's also by kissing a guy, quitting the band,
No. It's sleeping with a guy.
sleeping with a guy. Sorry, so it's even sexier.
Hell yeah.
But then the next life, the next song is "A Good Life Is the Best Revenge,"
Yes.
which basically completely it's like a complete different tonal shift in that whole kind of basically just deciding to live life to say fuck you to everybody.
I mean, that could be a good life for some people. Maybe for them it is too. I don't know if I personally would abide by that, but if they feel good about it, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And it's also one of the more funkier tunes on here as well. I mean, it kind of just swaps up from that kind of more soft burning songs that are on here to more funkier tunes that are happening, which we don't really get that from any of the other Ball Park Music albums that we've listened to.
No.
Because every night the same dream, I feel like is a lot slower of an album. In Museum, honestly, is probably a bit faster, and then and Weirder is like completely different sound anyway.
Yeah, this sounds very mid 2010s indie. Like that's kind of the vibe, right? And like
Yeah,
that's cool. But I think the reason I like the other albums a bit more is because Muse, Radiohead, the Smiths have such a distinct sound that it's there are albums that sound like the time they were made in, and there are albums that just sound like the artist. And I do hear Ballpark in this. I do see them, but it's just sounds a bit more like a time it came out in than it sounds like a tour kind of thing.
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, it's also a case of Ball Park basically changed their sound after Every Night the Same Dream, and that one didn't really do as well commercially. So it's kind of like I don't think there was. There could have been a case in which they evolved a different way from Puddinghead, and maybe that you'd go and say like, "Oh yeah, this is more a ballpark sound." I mean, that's still based on timing and everything, I guess. So it's like not really trying to think of the best way to say it. Coming off acid reflux, I haven't talked in a while, so this means that I'm back to learning how to think before I talk, and now I'm going into full on rants in which I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, I guess it is a case of maybe this one does come out as the Lost Identity album, but I don't know, it still sounds pretty fucking good. It's still got some of the Ballpark's best songs on here. It's one of my favorite Ballpark albums, regardless as well. I still put Museum ahead of it personally.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing that I've liked every Ballpark record we listened to. I think they're all good.
Mm-hmm.
I also just never had the one yet that's like tipped the scale. Like
I can't wait until I put on the EP or something that nobody heard about and just go, yeah,
yeah. My fucking Omnium Gatherum for Ballpark Music is their self-title or something like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you called it the self-titled, I would praise you, because so many people fucking like just say like, oh no, this is one of the weaker Ballpark. It's like, no, it's so good, that one, but that's not the one that we're covering on here. I also remember like when this because this album came out 2014, so I was in year 11 of that, so final 2 years of high school. I probably would have been playing Everything Is Shit Except My Friendship With You quite a lot on my high school playlist. Not gonna lie.
I mean, yeah, that sounds right.
That's basically the angsty kid in me going like, oh, they're swearing in the title. Favorite song. I also did listen to a lot of Tisms. I may be a cunt, but I'm not a fucking cunt. So none of this should surprise anybody.
Yeah.
Trix, have you finally got accustomed with the track listing?
Yes, I am.
What do you have to say about
It fucks. I guess we'll start at the beginning with the single, the She Only Loves Me When I'm There, which is instrumentally a banger.
it? And again,
Like, this
the
whole
cover
album
art is fantastic.
Yeah, this whole album is just instrumentally, chef's kiss.
I'm not surprised by that take. I mean, you get the kind of slow a cappella start to the whole song, and then the bass kicks in. That feels exactly like a Trix moment.
It is a Tricks moment.
Yeah. You can keep going with other stuff, Tricks. The whole album's good
Sure,
instrumental.
okay. Then even like the slower tracks like Cocaine Lion are still phenomenal. Which Cocaine Lion makes me think of the Rainbow Kitten surprise song Cocaine Jesus, which Cocaine Lion is the better song.
No, Cocaine Lion fucks.
Yeah.
I'm met a girl deep in space. I'm still waiting to see that one live.
And of course,
Uh,
there's those Cocaine Bear, which culturally relevant
Yeah.
again.
I still need to see Cocaine Bear. Do I need to see Cocaine Bear?
You still want to see Cocaine Bear.
I kind of want to see.
It's
Cocaine
worth
Bear.
seeing, I think.
Okay.
Like
I
it's
think I'm gonna subject myself to the Barbenheimer double
it's
feature.
it's funnier but gorier than you probably expect.
Okay, that sounds like it's up my alley.
Yes, a good life is the best revenge.
Yep.
A good life is the best revenge.
I mean,
Airplane
it's
is
also got that kind of moment in there as well, which the music fades out and it kind of fades in again for the outro before it goes into Teenager Pie, which is one of the. It's kind of weird when they do a couple of those fade ins and fades out like they did on What's on Your Mind.
I feel like
It's
Good Life faded into something else. It didn't sound exactly like the backing track.
no, it wasn't the exact song, I guess, but it's a very like similar kind of. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, it just kind of switches over to some little ditty.
Yeah, it's
Like one of those things. It's like, oh, secretly that's like Dean Hanson's favorite riff. He's wanted to shove it in somewhere.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you got to put it into an album somehow, that's the best way of doing it.
absolutely.
It's like that Nintendo composer who does like Luigi's Mansion, where it's like he has a theme that he figures out how to put into every game. You have to like do some weird stuff to
The
access
Socket
it.
song.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about the fucking Flintstones unused track on the SNES game.
Or is that one of his?
It's not, but it's from another composer that is. It's just like, hey, we have some extra space. Okay, I'm going to fill it with the most fire shit imaginable that nobody will ever hear.
That's amazing. I didn't know about this.
I'll see if I can dig it up.
Let's see. I always love an album where the title track ends up being a B-side.
Oh yeah, that's yeah, there is a song called Puddinghead. I can't remember what it was a B-side to. It might have been She Only Loves Me When I'm There.
Tripping the Light, fantastic.
Sugar Life, fantastic, thank you. Puddinghead's one of those songs I can't really remember too much myself because I've never really gone too out of my way to listen to it. But yeah, it was originally planned to have a title track on here, and then it just became a B-side.
Yeah,
It's a funny Ball Park Music moment.
Led Zeppelin did it once, and everyone's been doing it since.
Yeah.
Basically, like they've actually only got one title track in their whole discography for albums. In fact, maybe even on the EPs.
Weirder and Weirder?
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Every Night the Same Dream doesn't have one. Good Mood doesn't have one. The self-titled doesn't have one. Puddinghead's it's the B-side. Museum doesn't have one. Happiness in Surrounding Suburbs doesn't have one, and their two EPs do not have one.
Mm-hmm.
So they've only now started putting in title tracks. If they do it on their next record, we'll find out the hard way.
I'm looking at
Okay.
Go ahead, Trix.
I found the Flintstones thing I was talking about. It was specifically the SNES movie game,
Okay.
and it's unused song 2 by Dean Evans, and it just sounds like a fucking astral god fucking ascending theme.
I'll have to listen to this off air.
Yes, I am posting it now.
And when it's posted, I will say the reason though, even though I do like a lot of what happens on this album, I do think this album falls off pretty hard at the end though. Like after Struggle Street, it's just basically some, it's still alright Ball Park Music tracks. I don't listen to them and go, yeah, this is just crap. But there's never been a time in my life in which I would go like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go listen to Aeroplane.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, I would agree. I think probably for me, I would even lump Struggle Street in there personally. But I do I do like moments. Like I remember moments from like Polly's Group I had back on and Girls from High School, but that whole section just yeah, it kind of just plays out the whole album.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like on their other albums they've at least been a bit more. I mean, I still put Puddinghead above a lot of their other albums just because I think the highs on this album are a lot higher than the highs that certain other albums have. Like it's probably a bit of a hot take for me for Ball Park Music fans. I don't treat either Good Mood or Happiness in Surrounding Suburbs that highly. I think they've got some good songs on there. I think I think Good Mood, which we will cover at some point, and that's my least favorite ballpark. So already Dominic's like, yeah, I'm gonna make this my favorite ballpark.
No, no preconceptions. We're going all into this blind or whatever you
Yeah,
want to say.
I mean that one I've always like listened to, and then it ends off with the most Neutral Milk Hotel ripoff song, and they could have done,
Oh
and
yeah.
then like
Ooh.
not so much in a good way. And it's got some great songs off that album, but then the more I listen to it, it's like, you know what? There is also some very, very mediocre songs off this album.
I feel like this band would do a good King of Carrot Flowers cover.
They have,
Oh
I'm pretty
shit.
sure. Had they done King of Carol
You can
Flowers, or
listen
did
to
they
that
do it?
then.
No, they did In the Airplane Over the Sea.
That's fine, but I think King of Carrot Flowers would fucking be sent
I,
the
I
right way.
I have someone passed over a while ago, and it's probably been updated a lot since. This would have been passed to me in like 2020 or something like that. Someone stored a full playlist of covers, live versions, and stuff like that that they had done. It was 27 files, and
Okay.
some of these are just straight up bootlegs. Um, but it includes the Leica versions, their acoustics that they've just done to advertise albums and stuff like that, and then just random covers that they have done at live shows. So they have their Bohemian Rhapsody cover, which they just did to that one they didn't record or anything like that. That one was literally for a live show. They have a Julian Casablancas cover of 11th Dimension. They have a Savon Stevens cover of No Shade and the Shadow of the Cross.
Ooh, that might be interesting.
Yeah.
There's some demos on here as well. It's I When we get through all of Ballpark and there's nothing else to do, I will bring out that playlist. I promise you.
Okay, I'm down with that.
All
We've
right.
just got a lot of Ballpark music to go through first.
That's fair.
I'm looking at the uh, credits, like what everyone's been doing on the album, and it's like I'm impressed by how much variety and like instruments are on here, right? Because like Paul Furness is like credited with like Nord flutes and harpsichord and Rhodes piano, and Sam Cormac has like or Cromac has like the vocoder, the beatboxing, and acoustic and synth, and it's like I don't none of it super stands out in my mind, but it must be there. Like there's so
Yeah,
much, but it's all kind
no,
of
I fully agree with you on that. I think there is a case of like even some of those I'm like, yeah, let me just try to remember. I can't even remember when the beatboxing happens.
it says
I
it
think it's
is track 7.
in track 7 and everything
Yeah.
is shit except my friendship with you. Yeah, I guess that's beatboxing.
When?
No.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's there. I'm sure I'll have to listen to it again because I've listened to this quite a bit. Because we've had it for 5 weeks on the docket, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it would never have said anything about beatboxing, or
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I might even know
Yeah, no,
anything about a harpsichord.
I think harpsichord is that's not Teenager Pie, is it?
Uh, Trippin' Light Fantastic, Everything Is Shit, and Polly.
Man, I'm gonna have to go back and look at all the instrumentation. I've never really like focused too much on that, to be honest.
I didn't
It
super
doesn't
either.
to do my comparison of the year. It's not like on the Whaler where you can tell where all the instruments happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good album to like kind of. If you're noticing stuff, you're noticing it. Like it's gonna be
Yeah.
there. This maybe it's because of the way it's mixed and the way it's produced. It just all can kind of melt together.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because, like, I still think the instrumentation on this album is pretty tight. You know, maybe sometimes it could do more interesting things. I'm not going to lie about that, but I think there are times in which it does do pretty interesting things. I mean,
Like, do you
again,
remember?
Chicken the Light Fantastic's a pretty fucking danceable track.
But do you remember
especially for the
saxophone
themes
on
of it.
there?
What songs is it on?
Chicken the Light Fantastic.
Yeah, no, the outro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little bit of a cheat. Because like Chris Derbyshire is listed for both tenor and alto sax. I'm like, where? But yeah.
And look, I also fully admit there are some times in which maybe the lyricism as well is very kind of cheesy on this. I mean, I love Everything Is Shit Except My Friendship with You. I still don't know if Fruit Falls on My Head, but I don't discover anything is truly the outro lyric. But yeah, I mean, it's still a good song. It's still fun to sing along to.
I remember I was reading a review of this album. I can't remember if it was on like Rate My Music or Rate Your Music or All Music or something like that. And someone got really upset about this album because they were like, "Oh, you know, with Happiness and Surrounding Suburbs, they had such juvenile lyrics, but then Museum came along and it looked like they were in a step in the right direction." But nope, here we are back again with the juvenile lyrics.
What the fuck?
Found it already.
I found it already on Rate Your Music. I'm going to go through this whole review because honestly, if you ever thought that we're bad at reviewing stuff, this person opened up their review with "Fuck you, Sam Cromack."
Yes.
Okay.
Fuck you, Sam Cromack. I have no idea if you're the type who uses Rate Your Music or not, let alone the type of guy who looks up what random people are saying about him on the internet. But in a way, I mean it out of love. I'm sure I can find that. Ball Park Music's debut, Happiness and Surrounding Suburbs, was a largely hit-and-miss affair, and that's being generous. There were a few fun numbers, but a lot of it was simply fakest. Oh, hold on. Having or showing a lack of thought or intelligence, mindless, a vacuous or whatever it is pronounced, smile. Vacuous and
Vacuous smile.
Vacuous, yeah. The music was bland to the point of offensiveness. The lyrics were juvenile nothings mixed in with failed attempts at humor, and the whole thing seemed to be targeted towards a market of wannabe hipsters with low IQs. True. But that wasn't the most frustrating thing about that record. The truth is there were some brilliant ideas at play there. Although fleeting, there were great moments of genuine emotion, the occasional clever lyric, some decent production/arrangement ideas, and some wonderful melodies mixed in along with all the blandness. Sam Cromack came across less to me like a vacuous airhead. Isn't that redundant? Isn't that basically just, and more like a genius who, for whatever reason, has been muffled. His next endeavor, a solo album released under the moniker My Own Pet Radio, at least this person has been doing their research, so I'll give him this.
Yes.
Confirmed my suspicions about him by eradicating. I'm bad at reading today. By eradicating almost everything I hated about Ball Park Music up until that point, he proved that he can be an incredible songwriter and musician when he actually takes himself seriously. That album was dark and experimental enough to be interesting, but light and poppy enough to be widely accessible. It reminded me a lot of Radiohead, Grizzly Bear, and Animal Collective. The kid was heading light years in the right direction. Then along came Museum, Ball Park Music's sophomore album. It was lighter and poppier than Cromack's solo release, but was still good enough to win them a Most Improved badge. Hold it. I just like the idea. I like the idea of a Rate Your Music artist going up to reviewer going up to an artist with a badge that says "Congratulations, you got the Most Improved this year."
That's hilarious.
Again, the band had turned their backs on their weakness and focused purely on their strengths. It was still pop music, but this time it was genuinely fun. There was enough
still
emotion
pop music.
Yeah, it was still pop music, but this time it was genuinely fun. There was enough emotion there for me to connect with. Sam wasn't saying anything stupid in the lyrics. The melodies are really catchy and proved once again that Sam and the band could be utterly brilliant when taking themselves seriously. Ball Park Music were improving at a rapid rate at this point, and all of a sudden it wasn't a stretch to imagine they could evolve someday into one of Australia's greatest bands. They weren't there yet, but they were taking big steps in the right direction. Or so I thought. Now, I'll just sort of just point out that since then, Ball Park Music have completely blown up still even more. Like, this album blew up, and now they've blown up more. Just got to point that out there for this person's take. And so along comes Puddinghead, Ball Park Music's third full length. And what do you know? They inexplicably denied that Hass was their best album after all. Oh, Happiness in Surrounding Suburbs. And all that we need to be subjected to a return to that sound. And that we all needed to be so. Here, the melodies are blander than ever. The production is plain weak, and the lyrics have been more juvenile. But hey, 1.784 million Triple J listeners can't be wrong, right? Sure, it'll keep their impressionable Australian teenage fanbase happy. Sure, it might score a track or two in the Triple J Hottest 100 scored free. But does it so at the expense of artistic development? It's no coincidence that the best song on this file is Aeroplane. You picked Aeroplane as your best song off this? My boy! My boy, you take this wrong. A track originally written for My Own Pet Radio. To rub salt in the woods that runes, the My Own Pet Radio album seems to have been removed from all online stores, almost like it's an ashamed Sam making an apology. A song titled Everything is Shit Except My Friendship with You speaks for itself. Great song. Could Chromax still become the next great Australian songwriter? Sure, it's still possible. But this is the totally wrong way of going about it. That was poetry, Mr. Fast Ballooning Head. Oh, that's right. He hates pudding, he likes fast ballooning.
Mm-hmm.
5 out of 5, Kill Your Stereo.
Is that the other review?
It's the one that's on Wikipedia.
That's funny. Alright, Fast Ballooning Head. Can I give you a message? Dear Fast Ballooning Head, do you want to guest on our podcast?
Sure, come on if you ever want to come on.
That would be interesting.
We need these hot takes, especially after Trix gets cancelled for this week.
Yeah,
I would love to see him do that, but for a random episode of ours. Like, one day I wake up and it's like episode 79. There's a whole rant on there like that. But it was like, oh, they regress after all their improvement from episode 62 onward. But here we are again.
I had real hopes after that Halloween minisode. But then after watching... what's our worst... Oh yeah, the Sonic episode. Anyway...
79 is 39 minutes long and 44 seconds. How dare they give us a short episode?
Yes.
Good album, Puddinghead. I like it. It's probably not my favorite of the week, but this was definitely Trix bait, and it's glad to see that worked.
Yeah, it did work. It worked very well.
Yep. Good bass on this album.
Hear my neighbor's truck beeping in the background. I'm outside.
It's happening. It's happening occasionally.
It's not as bad as last week.
Nope.
Favorites off this album: Everything is Shit Except My Friendship with You, Trippin' on Light, Fantastic, Cocaine Lion. I like Next Life Already, and obviously She Only Loves Me When I'm There. Least favorite is Aeroplane.
My favorites are She Only Loves Me When I'm There, Next Life Already. Good Life is Best Revenge. My least favorite's probably Cocaine Lion.
Wrong take.
Yeah, the wrong take. Ooh.
Wrong take as well.
Favorites are the single, Cocaine Bear. Least favorite's Airplane.
All right, Trix, pop the bottle.
To pick the next one. Pop the bottle with Doing the Smiths?
Yeah.
I don't know if that picked up on the mic.
It did.
I have popped the cork on this St. George's Absinthe. It's 60%, 120 proof. It smells like mouthwash with licorice in it.
Perfect. I'm sure Marcy would approve.
Yes. And Here I go.
So how come every Smith song has like Morrissey complaining the whole time, but then the backing instrumentation sounds like that dance rave, the jellyfish dance rave from SpongeBob?
Whoa. Holy shit. Oh,
So Tricks, you've picked two tens in a couple months of each other.
hell yeah.
What was
Because
the first one again for our listeners and totally not for me?
Random Access Memories.
Thank you.
And like they're both tens for me. Like this is maybe like a light 10, like on a bad day could be a 9.9, but this album's still a 10 for me.
No, I prefer Puddinghead to this.
Oh, man, like I mean
I'm not a big Smiths fan. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I that's fair, but this album hits everything for me. From like The Queen is Dead being a Hubert Selby Jr. reference to just the whole track list being excellent. Like even the songs that aren't as like interesting as other ones are just lovely. You know, like just the sequencing of them, like they're paired up sometimes in a way where it's like these are the more croony songs, and like yeah, maybe they're not as exciting as Big Mouth Strikes Again, but they play one after the other, and it just sounds really nice and lovely. I don't know, I really like this album a lot, and like listening to the instrumentation, it's not always a jellyfish, right? Like if you listen to like Cemetery Gates, that's like a ska song almost.
We got the episode title for this.
Yeah, how many ska weeks are we gonna title our fucking
This
episodes?
this is only the second one.
It's still weird that's happened twice.
It
I'm
is.
serious though. If you like, there's no horns obviously, but if you took the backing track, the Cemetery Gates, and like amped it up a little bit, it would make a great ska bass.
You're not wrong. I can. There's definitely some overlap in Andy Rourke's very like metronomic and repeating and just very rhythmic and repetitive bass and ska. I can definitely see that link.
That
I do find
the
it
jingly
weird. I just want
guitars. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say I do find it weird though in this album that Morrissey does give a critique of modern Netflix cartoons with the song Big Mouth Strikes Again, but
Yes.
I think that was very brave take, Morrissey. And this is coming from
Yes.
someone who didn't even hate Big Mouth.
And he had to
I
let you know that he was a
also
time traveler, but this is the way he wanted to let you know.
now now that I have recovered from the shot of absinthe, I just want to say that it was absolutely delicious. It absolutely burned the entire bottom of my jaw down into my throat, and it just coated it in this fucking licorice flavor with just this very like rubbing alcohol forward, kind of like, but in a good way. Just ooh, it was good.
This shit will kill you, but in a good way.
Very much so. Like if I drank it proper, I could see myself absolutely just fucking loving it.
Now, I mean, we gotta like the Smiths is like the hipster band, especially in like the 2000s. Like if you watch fucking 500 Days of Summer, oh, I hear you like the Smiths. It's like a fucking meme almost, right?
Yeah.
And like There Is a Light That Never Goes Out is literally the song from that. But goddamn if it's not a good song.
It goddamn if it isn't a good song indeed.
I'm just gonna ask about the song, and this is a serious one. Am I missing some meaning on this, or is there something, or did Morrissey just find out that people have different body types and some girls are bigger than others?
Maybe it's like a body acceptance, fat acceptance sort of deal, or real early.
I just can't believe that Morrissey would be accepting of anybody.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's a joke.
I could see that.
I think from what I remember when I did the research a few weeks ago, Johnny Marr sent over the instrumentals, and then Morrissey came back with this, and everyone was kind of like, "What?"
You know that scene from The Simpsons where they watch the TV on that telephone and there's that comedian and everybody's laughing, but the Simpson family doesn't understand any of the jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel learning that this is a joke.
Well, I think the way
Fair
it was
enough.
phrased was more like I think Johnny had like a more attacked way of being like, I liked it when it was an instrumental more.
I'm going to champion in an ironic trans way.
That's fair. I think there's room for that. After Vicar and a Tutu, not long before it.
Yes.
Plus, the beginning of Some Girls Bigger Than Others has that the song fading out and fading in real quick, which is always a fun start.
Indeed.
Oh no, but when Ball piped it,
Well, Ball Park went to something else. This is literally just starting with
I'm
the
fuck.
beat. I know.
Yeah, I know. I'm fucking.
Actually, the song to compare this one would be "Parade" by Justice, which I think we covered. Yeah, we covered that when we did their audio video disco album.
An album that I have not remembered.
The only thing I remember about any Justice at all is I remember listening to the fucking Cross while playing Into the Pit on Fallout 3.
Ooh, yeah, Cross would be a good album to cover at some point too. But I mean, I don't know. I've always enjoyed this album. This is an album I could listen to easily all the way through and have a good time. Like there are some songs here that are really complex and complicated, and I think some of them maybe show Morrissey's singing prowess in better lights than others. Like The Queen is Dead, I think he is straining the most and is showing the most roughest sides of his voice, and I think that's fine. But God, if he cannot croon over something like "I Know It's Over," "Never Had No One Ever." God, those fucking songs, he just sounds so good on them, and I fucking hate that he's such a dick.
Yeah.
I think he's a good singer. I won't deny when somebody has something good like that. I don't think he's good enough for me to really care. To be honest, maybe it's a hot take about the Smiths. I don't know. I've really only liked How Soon Is Now. I kind of found Girlfriend in the Coma to be a funny song.
I mean,
I've never been too big on the Smiths. I've never really.
He,
I think there are a lot of other
hard
artists.
enough yet.
I think there are a lot of artists that had a very similar sound or in a very similar scene to the Smiths around this time that just did everything better. I mean, for me, the Smiths always sound like a band that's kind of in that mix of post punk and new wave. And if we're going to go for artists that sound better from around this time, I'm just going to go listen to Talking Heads.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, it's a huge improvement over Meat is Murder. You got to admit that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's not hard to do though. Meat is Murder is just like a 7.5, 8 out of 10 album.
It's like a 5 or a 6 for me.
It's like an album.
There are a couple good songs on there, but there's a lot on there that's like, oh my god, dude, really? And like,
I'm
How
glad
Soon
I
Is
didn't
Now
listen
is
to
like,
the deluxe edition of this album as well because that would have
Yeah,
just probably been too long.
I'm not a monster.
yeah, I wouldn't have. I think I specifically even asked you at one point, did you want us to do that?
And I think I even responded with, "I'm not a monster."
Yeah, like if we want to cover more of the Smiths, they have like 3 singles collections we can do or more.
Yeah.
Because like for whatever reason, the U.S. just released a bunch of different versions of their albums with other songs for whatever reason.
A better idea, could we cover New Order instead?
I mean, we can go into the New Order, Joy Division stuff at some point. That'd be fun.
I would like to highlight my favorite New Order moment. I was listening to a podcast about Jeffrey Epstein, and all of a sudden I just hear the intro to Age of Consent for one of the interstitial songs, and it took me a minute to place it, but when I did, holy shit.
Fantastic.
It was like one of those jokes where it's like, okay, yeah, that sounds familiar, and then it just hits you like a train 5 minutes later, and you just have to rewind the entire podcast.
See, I have 2 New Order albums on my computer because my brother bought them both, and then I just I did a good old piracy by stealing his files. And for some reason, they just always included Blue Monday on the deluxe editions. Just another version of Blue Monday that they have. It's a great song. I do not lie.
Yeah, Blue Monday's great, but
Yeah.
I have free copies of it now.
Yeah, I love this album. Big Mouth Strikes Again is a huge highlight.
Yep.
There's Let Never Goes Out, obviously, as well. I really love the crooning parts of it. I really like the different instrumental takes. Like I said, Cemetery Gates, especially being such a light, poppier song after a couple slower moments, it's just a really nice shift. And especially if you're listening to it as an album, like a vinyl. Like that's the end of side 1, right? And it's like, oh, wow, they really turned it around there. And then they kind of continue on side 2 with Big Mouth and everything else. And it's like, there's a really interesting way they've sequenced it. And it doesn't even really have to matter. It doesn't even have to be like, oh, they really thought a lot about it. But It just works.
Has anyone said anything funny about this album on Rate Your Music? That's what I'm now looking for. This is what this week's episode is. It's a Rate Your Music shit take.
A Rate Your Music episode. And this Absinthe is hitting me like a truck.
Queen is Dead by the Smiths. Let's see. Can I organize these reviews by like?
While he does that, I'm gonna take another shot of Absinthe.
Someone's posted.
Yes.
Someone's posted on their review. Morrissey treated the following this morning after I published the above review. Goes to show what young people of Britain know. They wouldn't know an interesting album cover if it walked up to them in a park and picked up a stick and jabbed it in their eyes. It was probably written by an immigrant child. Can't wait to pay my taxes to keep that one in nappies, I don't think. Aussie Styles must be desperate for readers. That's He then published statistics about the recent decline in readers of my reviews, which was quite childish, I thought, and I was glad that I got my review written by someone of a similar mental age. That's the top review. That's the top fucking review. That's funny.
That's incredible.
And the funnier thing, they gave the album 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, that sounds like a Morrissey move.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's really funny. I don't know if we can beat that one, but we'll look.
Yeah.
I don't really have much more else to say about this one. Like it's
This
poppy. It's fine. Yeah, as much as I'm not into it, I don't hate it. I mean, I like it still. There's a lot of other albums that I would put this ahead of, and I feel like there would be some weeks in which if this was the album that was swapped out for a couple or some other albums, it would probably get number one by default quite easily. But when we're comparing it to everything else this week, it's like probably my least favorite, to be honest.
Huh.
Rest in peace, Andy Rourke, and to you I take another shot.
It's okay. I like Johnny Marr and Modest Mouse.
Listen to this album. I say read the Hubert Selby book, Last Legs of the Brooklyn, which the title of this album takes its name from. Great book, great album, just all around a great piece of the 80s, despite Morrissey being Morrissey.
Yeah.
Morrissey.
Fuck Morrissey. This album's great.
Yes. My favorite tracks, I'll actually give favorites. I won't fucking list the whole thing. Is like, despite me thinking it's kind of a 10, I still think Big Mouth and There's a Light That Never Goes Out are the clear highlights.
Yeah.
But I don't have a least favorite.
I'll agree with the highlights on here. Least favorites, probably Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others.
Fair.
I did like Vicar and a Tutu.
No least favorites. Favorites are Cemetery Gates and There's a Light That'll Never Go Out.
Oh, Cemetery Gates is a good song too, damn. Alright. So, that leads us now going back to the weirdest and most stacked version of the Radiohead versus Muse thing we could do right now by comparing OK Computer to the B-Sides live album compilation Hullabaloo Soundtrack.
Do you want to hear my hot take that'll get me canceled about both Radiohead and Muse?
Sure.
Don't worry, I was going to have a hot take as well, so I'll join you afterwards.
Go ahead.
These are bands that are just fundamentally not for me.
Interesting.
I listen, they go in, one ear, come out the other. No imprint is left on my brain. It's just noise to me. Like, this is white noise. Like, I'm not supposed to have an opinion on this. Like, my brain is wired so that, like, I cannot have an opinion on this.
That's interesting.
My hot take was that if Dominic, if you've chose Absolution instead of Hullabaloo, I would have been cancelled by Radiohead fans because I would have picked Absolution to be greater than OK Computer, and I wouldn't have even been sorry about it.
No, I have something planned that's gonna be much more fun for those.
Yeah, it could be Kid A versus Absolution, which would probably still get me cancelled, but and before Radiohead fans that somehow find this attack me, I do recognize that yes, Muse probably wouldn't have been Muse without Radiohead. Blah 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 blah. I don't care. I like Absolution more than I like the other albums.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Hullabaloo is a really good soundtrack and an okay live album.
Yeah, it's a lot of their B-sides. It's a lot of just the stuff they've had kicking around since Showbiz. some of them are really interesting. Some of them go really hard. I think there's a timeline in which Muse could have been a great metal band.
Instead of now where they're a shit metal band.
Instead of now where they're a dad rock metal band.
There's actually a good shit metal band that I'm familiar with.
It's really good to know that Muse, like, they recognized after the second law that they didn't know what was going to be popular anymore, decided to hang up the boots and live up their lives with the money and fame that they have gained, and have now since then got fans going back into the second law saying, look, it's not perfect, but I wish this band would have continued, and that's their legacy, and they totally didn't put out anything else after
that. I really gotta give it to them for including the whole Tom Waits thing that they had going on for their beginning of their show into the beginning of the live part. Like, there's no reason Tom Waits needs to be here, but he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Waits has not left the building.
He's not even here. It's just a recording to introduce.
He needs a ride home, Dominic.
I also really like that Microcuts, Matt Bellamy can indeed do the vocals live. Because that's a really hard song, I would imagine, to perform in any kind of like forced moment.
Maybe to your peasants below, Matt Bellamy.
Yeah.
I mean, like peak Muse is really good. They're a band that's tainted by their past output. There were bands in which, when their recent output or their output for a while has been pretty weak. I mean, some people say since Resistance it's been bad. I think Resistance is still a good album. It's got definitely some of the more mainstream farming moments on there, but it's still a good album as itself. And because of that, I feel like some people kind of negate like Muse's prior output to that. But this is like basically the most mainstream post-rocky sounding band was ever going to get.
Yeah.
Like I think if they dabbled more into the post-rock that they were kind of going on with here, I don't think it would have been as successful as these albums were, or so much. So this is like, maybe it's a bit of a crime to call them post-rock as well, but they definitely got that influence in there.
Yeah, and like, for a band that was clearly on the rise, doing a good live show, and just kind of like, I think it's kind of novel to at least package your B-sides and put it with a live show like that, just to give it some oomph, like do something interesting with it. Like, who else is putting out an hour and a half album that's all of that?
Yeah.
And it's like, there are songs in here that's like, they don't really fit anywhere. It's like, where the fuck do you hear Muse doing something like Map of Your Head? What a weird, like, twinkly, cutesy little song.
We no longer get the Map of Your Head, we get the Map of the Problematic.
Problematique.
Yes. Problematique, sorry.
Problematique.
And of course, like, something like The Gallery is kind of like a weird, instrumentally, like, film soundtracky song, which I think is kind of cool. And so I mean, there are moments on here that I think are interesting to listen to. I don't know if I would necessarily suggest going into it as a full, I want to listen to a Muse album kind of moment. But for people that like Muse and like the sound that they had, especially earlier on, it's nice that they preserved some of the stuff that really didn't make the albums. Like, because there's a ton of stuff that if you really wanted to look, I'm sure you could find it, but it's much harder to find.
Well, the crazy part is, as well, is like, as you're saying, this is basically a B-sides album. It's still a better album than their past 10 years, basically, or past.
Yeah.
I would say, unironically, this is definitely it's probably better than Resistance.
I don't know about that, but
it's a 50-50 on that. It's a 50-50 on that. But it's definitely better than everything after Resistance. And it's a B-sides compilation. I know you like Second Law, but Second Law has still got flaws. Second Law is at least appreciable, but you gotta remember, just because they were going for something doesn't mean they did something.
That's true, and I mean, you could say that for Radiohead as well.
That's true. That's how I feel. A lot of people feel about the King of Limbs.
Yes.
And then And then my dad always likes to say that the least, or the worst Radiohead album Radiohead ever put out was a moon-shaped pool. So
Ooh, yeah.
I'm gonna have
he's
to
he's
ask my
probably
father about his Radiohead opinions because he's got them. I know.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
Anyways,
go
I
ahead.
don't recommend burping up absinthe.
I'm sure that's not good.
Ooh, no.
But obviously, I mean, comparing Hullabaloo to OK Computer being one of the most, I guess, important albums of the 90s is kind of a weird thing. It's more just from the perspective of these were the third albums that both bands released. They were just in very different places when they happened. This was Radiohead breaking out, and this was Muse kind of like following up Origin of Symmetry, kind of stepstoning to Absolution.
Hmm.
I mean, it's you think about it as well. I mean, both of these bands basically broke out with their first album as well. Just one of them broke out a lot more than the other one did.
Yeah.
And then one other band. I mean, this is probably the moment before Muse like truly broke out. Like they broke out with Sunburn, with Showbiz with songs like Sunburn, but like they got just like a new batch of fame when they released their next album. So
And I
it's
mean,
kind of like we're in that moment just before Muse was as known as they are now.
right. And we're in the moment now where Radiohead is getting that recognition. And like the step between even OK Computer and Kid A and Amnesia is still, like, there's still a difference there even.
Hmm.
Like this is still like OK Computer is still them doing, I guess, 90s stuff. What you might think about as like what a band will do, and then moving forward, they kind of get more and more into like what does Radiohead want to do? What is a Radiohead thing? But even then, you still have a lot of those flourishes on OK Computer. Something like Fitter Happier being the just like the text to speech moment, or
They were doing fucking Death Slamming Fun Sports Ball before I was.
yes,
They truly are the revolutionaries.
or kind of having like exit music for a film be this like really cinematic kind of balladry, and of course being in the Romeo plus Juliet film, of course, always helps that too, right? But there's a real sense of Radiohead trying to say something with this album and being very like about angst and like adulthood in the 90s. And it seems like there's a lot to say about like electronics and like technology rising up and all that stuff.
And just to link everything back up as well, Ball Park Music did get in number 50 with their cover of A Paranoid Android in the Hottest 100 like versions.
And I remember choosing the Regina Spektor cover, No Surprises, for the Triple J like a version research I did because I knew I wanted to pick this.
No surprise, this is probably the angstiest song on here.
Yes. And they do a good job, I think, of overall peppering the lyrics with some really disturbing imagery that, some of it, if you think about it, really shouldn't be, or it is more passable than you might expect. But then if you think about it more, it's like, yeah, that actually is kind of creepy. Like making a house, like just like a white picket fence house, sound more disturbing than you'd imagine is definitely a feat.
Indeed.
Now, before we continue, are we basically done with Hullabaloo and going on to OK Computer, or?
I was kind of just going back and forth between them because we are comparing the two.
No, that's cool. I was just saying that before, like doing a favorites or least favorites. We're doing that like that. I'm happy. Um, OK Computer is one of those albums as well in which like I listen to it and I understand why everyone's overhyped it. Especially, I mean, overhyping is probably the wrong word to use in here because basically when this album came out, I mean, we had the alternative, but we didn't have the alternative like this.
Yeah.
You now hear still bands to this day taking influence from this album. I mean, the Pop album we did last year, Robert Writes a Love Song, literally has the reference to Paranoid Android in it. By having the beeps. It has
Yeah.
the beeps.
But
Yeah.
even having a song like Airbag just kind of start up with the guitars and the jingle bells. It's just like such an ostentatious beginning to an album. Ostentatious.
I do feel like I have been Seinfeld affected a bit though by this album. And it's like probably one of those reasons I mean, the true reason why I don't give it a 10 is Fitter Happier. That one's just actually just a waste of 2 minutes. And
I don't know. I don't agree
I
with
would,
that.
I would fucking stick by that.
Better
That's
Happier
my hot
is
take.
important only because of how, again, accentuating that creepiness and doing that text to speech stuff is a cool little break for me.
It's revolutionary for the time, but it's like, yeah,
See,
yeah, I'm good now.
the reason I also actually secretly wanted to do this whole series of Radiohead and Muse is because I could probably easily tell you what my favorite Muse albums are going to be. I don't know what my favorite Radiohead album is. I don't know if I'm going to have a clear winner.
It's usually a hot take anyway from the Radiohead fan base. Is usually just everybody arguing with each other what the best Radiohead song is
And it could
or album
be
is.
any from like the Bends.
But if you like Creep, then you're a mainstream idiot.
Yeah, their favorite album could be anything from the Bends to a moon-shaped pool, except for King of Limbs. I feel like.
Whilst the Muse fan base is just mainstream idiots.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if there's any Radiohead album that completely fits everything I like from Radiohead into an album. Because there's a lot of moments I like here. There's a lot of great, interesting guitar pieces, just some interesting compositions.
And I mean, Memes Society or anything like that. Paranoid Android is probably one of the best written songs of all time. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, that chorus is interesting. The way Tom York sings it is cool. Like it's just one of those like landmark classic singles.
And then the fucking guitar breakdown at the end is just an absolute chef's kiss on the whole thing.
Oh yeah, and then like something like Karma
Yeah.
Police too, being very just like more that piano focus and just even the moments like this is what you get.
Yeah. When you mess with her.
Oh man, like
Karma police. Arrest this girl. She's drunk in too much absinthe and
I know how to play Paranoid Android on bass because it's one of the default songs on Rocksmith.
yeah, that's kind of fun.
you're not the first person I've heard say that. You are the second person I've heard say that. Which
That's the only
again is kind of
had a album.
again it's kind of weird that I've heard two people say that now, but
You'd have two nickels.
But if you want something that's a little more traditional alt rock, you have a song like "Let Down" that'll definitely wet your whistle too. Like "Let Down," I feel like is that very late '90s, just like I don't know, it has that vibe to it. And then if you want something else that's different from that, something that's a little harder, you got something like "Electioneering" as well. That's a little more of a rock song. Like a lot of the songs here kind of fit in different boxes and kind of do different things, but they all kind of still sound a bit cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean this is by all amounts an album. There's I don't think there's any mistaking. I mean this is the moment where like the Radiohead kind of truly broke out as the more critically acclaimed artists that they are now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's whilst I will say like I have been Seinfeld affected by the copycats and stuff like that, and I think there are moments on here which I still like. I this is my favorite of the week. I'm not gonna fucking be doing that hard of a take compared to everything else on that. It's just not this perfect album that it usually
It's
is
not.
considered as because remember this album's usually considered like #1 greatest album of all time by most voter lists or just any journalist site that's too afraid to have an actual opinion.
Right. And this is where you figure are you a hipster or are you an underground music hipster? Because if you're just a hipster, you're going to like OK Computer. But if you're an underground hipster, you're going to like In the Aeroplane Over the Sea.
Yeah. I don't even think this album is that inaccessible. I think there might be some people that it's always had the idea that it's a very inaccessible album and stuff because it was very different to the mainstream when it came out. And that's fairly so. But like in now retrospect and being in 26 years later and knowing everything else that's hit the mainstream and stuff, I think this is still a pretty accessible album now. I don't even think you need to pretend to be hipster to say that you enjoy this.
I mean, this isn't even when they went electric fully.
Mm.
Like, if you want to talk about like Radiohead being experimental and weird. Like that's Kid A, that's Amnesiac. This is still them using like guitar and piano and drums and traditional things along with some computer elements. So to like harp on this being the point where they all went inaccessible and went too far with like computers or whatever. No, that's not entirely true. Go listen to Electioneering.
Mm.
Electioneering
Mhm.
is about as hard of a song at this point in their career as they could have made. And then you get something like No Surprises, which is like a little nice twinkly lullaby.
That's exactly what it is. It's a lullaby. There's no dark themes, and
It's a darker song as well. No,
it's about Tom York's hate for surprise parties.
but I mean, like that. There is so much here to latch onto if you are willing. Like it's hard. I don't understand it being completely inaccessible. And like even the songs I don't like as much, like the wraparound songs, like Airbag and the Taurus, like they're more '90s songs. Like they're not totally fucking out there fucking Frank Zappa bullshit.
Hmm.
When are we covering Frank Zappa? I remember I once like I listened to some. I think I might have listened to Lightning Bolt or something like that, and I showed it to my coworker. Who was into that heavier sound, and somehow the conversation was like Frank Zappa or something from that. And I listened to Riesel's "Tore My Flesh" or whatever that album is called. Tricks you'll know about.
I don't know that much Frank Zappa. I'm not gonna lie. My father's the big Frank Zappa fan in the family.
I feel like
Ask your
Frank
father.
Zappa
I think it's Riesel's "Ripped My Flesh."
yeah, and I'm sure that Frank Zappa, Mothers of Invention, all that stuff, and fucking Trout Mask Replica guy all kind of travel in the same circle anyway.
And I listened to that album, and after I listened to it, I just went to him and said, "Okay, what the fuck?"
Anthony Beefheart, that's what I mean. Yes.
That reminds
Mm.
me. Did I ever share in the hottest 100 voting? There was the question that it was like, which song would you cover?
Yeah.
Did I post that?
What did you
No.
pick?
Bill's Corpse.
Okay.
I'm posting the screenshot right now.
I mean, if you want a hot take of a song, listen to Frank Zappa covering "Stairway to Heaven."
Yeah.
That's a fucking trip.
That sounds funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes. So I mean, in the large scheme of things, I think. Is anyone here going to say that Hullabaloo Soundtrack is better?
Nope.
They're on the same tier for me just because I could not absorb any of them.
And I think that's interesting because I think they're very different albums. That one is meant to be more absorbable than the other. But it's OK Computer, and it is probably Muse's least known album because it is a B-sides live album. Comparing them is perhaps futile, but it again is worth kind of clearing the runway so that I can do Kid A and Amnesiac together, and Absolution and Black Holes together, because that makes a lot more sense to me.
Hmm.
Where this is like, yeah, Radiohead. By the time they got to the third album, look at them go! Wow, they got hits like Paranoid Android, Karma Police, and Muse. Well, they were just still stepping upward to get to Absolution.
So Paranoid Android also has one of the best music videos. It's a well known one, but like I still wanted to just point it out there. The well known facts of the person who animated it. I can't remember what the original like animator and stuff was called, or like what the show was. But the person who animated it was apparently not allowed to have the lyric sheet, so they could actually only animate Vice the sound alone, or like
Huh.
write it,
Interesting.
which I think is pretty cool. I mean, to be fair though, I don't think you need the lyrics to know that it's angsty.
Apparently, they didn't want the thing to be too literal.
I'd like to also stress out that angsty does not mean bad. Like Radiohead is the definition of good angst.
Yes, like this is angst, and you know, there's
There
emo
also been a
angst.
definition. There've been a definition of bad angst, but this is the definition of good angst.
Yes, like if you want to go back to Creep, there's angst. If you want to go back to this, there's angst. And emo angst is just something entirely different.
Hmm.
I also the fun thing too about OK Computer is like, if I were to pick a song on here that I'd actually want to listen to over and over, it's hard for me to actually pick one. Because the Paranoid Android is a great song, but that's not something I could do on repeat. Karma Police is a great
Wait,
song, but that's not what I would do on repeat. If I wanted to do something that I could listen to over and over, I'm probably going to pick something like Climbing Up the Walls.
not exit music for a film?
That's so like emotionally charged and sad and all that stuff. I think of the movie. Like, I don't want to have to be bogged down by that every time.
Real motherfuckers listen to How to Disappear Completely every day to wake up.
That's true. Yes. Get A. What an album. But
Yeah, OK Computer's a good album. That's I think it's one of those records that I think any real criticisms that we've had in hindsight have all kind of been like made by now. If those criticisms are stuff that you're not worried about, then it'll probably be a 10 out of 10 to you. To
it's not for
me,
me.
it's just below a strong 9. It's still a really good record, and I kind of had to listen to it and just remember as well. It's like, yeah, everyone's copying this.
Yeah. For me, it's somewhere in the 8s because it's a strong track list. I'm not as big fan of Airbag or The Tourist, but it's a strong track list. It doesn't resonate with me personally. And I think for me to have like an album that's like a 10 or like a strong 9, there has to be a little bit of that, like, oh, I'm vibing with this kind of thing. And I like Radiohead a lot. I have had moments in my life where I've been a huge Radiohead person. But like, OK Computer is more of a thing I appreciate, and like in this listening round have like we're actually grown to appreciate a lot more as a full album instead of just the singles.
I'm going to assume Trix doesn't have anything else to say. We can go favorites and least favorites.
Blenders.
You on the Absinthe there?
Yeah, I only had like 50 milliliters, and I am on my ass.
Well, it's a good thing we're wrapping up now.
Yeah. It's a good thing we ordered the episode this way.
Favorites of OK Computer are Paranoid Android, Karma Police, No Surprises, Excellent Music for a Film, and Electioneering. Least favorite is Fitter Happier. Muse's Hullabaloo is a case of I actually don't really have a strong favorite or least favorite. I think it's a pretty consistent record the whole way through. I don't think it has as high peaks or anything like that to really say this is a good moment. The live album itself is kind of just a live album. I didn't really have anything too high to say. I just kind of enjoyed listening to it more than I did the Smiths. They're both probably around the same rating for me though.
Ah, all right. For me, favorites for Radiohead, Paranoid Android's good. Karma Police is good. I really like Climbing Up the Walls. And I do gotta throw it also to like kind of the other moments like Let Down and No Surprises for being different and having that kind of balance of angst as well, of like showing different kinds of angst. My least favorites, of course, are Airbag and The Tourist. As far as the Muse album goes, I kind of agree that there isn't a strong favorite. I do think songs like Ashamed are interesting, especially like talking about Muse going in a heavier direction. I think that kind of shows a version of that they could have done. I think Hypochondriac Music is a version of Hyper Music from Origin of Symmetry is also very interesting in the gallery. Being more of a soundtrack esque thing is cool too. They're B sides. They're kind of those one off directions that they could have gone in. And the live album is fine. I like the live album in the sense of they do the songs and they do them well. And Matt Bellamy can hit the high notes. Though with those things, it's gonna be solid. The Tom Waits thing is weird, but it's there, and it's kind of a fun little quirk on the rest of it that gives it some flavor.
The rare double blender. But shout out to Paranoid Android because I know how to play it on bass thanks to Rocksmith.
This episode brought to you by Absinthe.
Yes.
So, Trix, before you completely die of Absinthe, what's your ranking for the week?
I'm going to put Muse and Radiohead at a shared 3 because I could not If you put a gun to my head, I couldn't tell you what the better album is.
That was a tie for you this week.
Yes. Number 2, The Smiths. Number 1, Ball Park Music Puddinghead.
For me, I'm going to put number 4 as The Smiths, number 3 is Hullabaloo, number 2 is Puddinghead, and number 1 is OK Computer.
Me, The Smiths, Queen is Dead. It's a 10 out of 10 album. OK Computer is after that. Hullabaloo is after that because it's fairly interesting and does some cool stuff I really like, and that's kind of why I edged over Puddinghead. Because Puddinghead also is a cool album, and I like it, but the Muse stuff hits me more, gives me more of the shit that I am really interested in, which is imagining a world where Muse was consistently better and went in all a bunch of different directions instead of the direction it went in.
And now we're going to go into what we're doing next week. Trix, please say it before you die.
I'm not that drunk, okay?
Okay, you see.
I am going to be doing some videos from my childhood that just so happen to be sunk to music. Synced? Sank? I don't know. Watching both of these is mandatory, but they are both on YouTube. I will post them when I sober up. I'm going to be doing Animusic 1 and 2, and as a bonus, they happen to originate from the town I am currently living in, Ithaca, New York.
Someone has to do a book report in Ithaca, New York.
Yes, bonus points.
I guess I'll go next. After all this emo stuff we've been doing and finally getting back to this episode and doing it after 5 weeks, I would like to calm down a little bit and do some things that aren't as intensive. So I'm gonna pick 2 albums, but for different reasons that I usually might pick 2 albums. The first one, more of a funny circumstance that we're in this position, that it's funny. I'm gonna do the new Dog Park Dissonance album, the Pink and the Black album, which is just their EPs, just reorganized into an album.
Okay.
Didn't we cover these EPs already?
Yes, but it's very funny they put out an album of everything after we cover the EPs.
That's funny.
And then pairing with that to actually give something to this week beyond that, because I don't expect people are going to listen to the Pink and the Black album super much. I want to do the new Janelle Monáe album, The Age of Pleasure.
Oh boy, I can't wait to get
Oh,
canceled.
fuck yeah.
It's
Tell you what,
2023.
though,
I love Janelle Monáe.
Tell you what though, she's finally got the advertising for me.
Wait?
She's got the advertising for me. She's been very very au naturel.
Oh,
Yeah,
got it.
advertising for this one.
Yes.
If you get the record and you open it up, literally the full 2 foot by 1 foot photo of her tits.
All right, that works, I guess.
Most expensive porn. Here we go.
And now, Ritz, what is your pick?
Well, you remember how you wanted to just like you said probably 2 minutes ago, you wanted to kind of calm down this week?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, fuck you. I want to go and do the wrap up that you didn't add to the draft. So I'm going to add a couple of things. It's going to be 2 EPs and an album. The album's unrelated, but there's some Australian fifth wave emo that I wanted to kind of just wrap up the whole thing with.
Okay.
And I figure get some of that one. Get some of that in. So the first one's going to be Keratin's Only I EP. It came out in December 4th of last year, so it is technically a 2023 cycle. And continuing on with the 2023 cycle, we also have the artist that hosted We Will Look Back at You and Love You Forever's debut show, Freezer, with probably my favorite EP title of the whole year so far, I Do My Part by Not Killing Spiders. And those are going to be the 2 Australian emo stuff to just kind of wrap it up with some 2023 stuff. And then I'm going to add on just something that I actually plan to just like listen to a lot of, so may as well do the good old tax write-off and add it into this. And it's only 26 minutes as well, so this actually isn't the longest of listens. I think this is only a bit over an hour in total, these 3 records. And that's the new Feeble Little Horse album, Girl with Fish.
Okay.
Feeble little horse. All right,
And
that's
I'm posting the animusics that are on YouTube.
yeah. My package of the music should be here. Hopefully, I have to go check downstairs.
Hell yes.
Until
I
then,
also own them on DVD.
we have got Anna Music 1 and 2. We have got Janelle Monáe's The Age of Pleasure, I think is what it's called.
Correct.
We have got Dog Park Dissidents, the Black and Pink albums.
Pink and black.
Pink. We have got Go With Fish from Feeble Little Horse, Freeze's I Do My Part by Not Killing Spiders, and Keratin's Only I have been Ritalin. You can catch me on my website, ritalin4kids.github.io. I also have a YouTube channel that's in the description below.
I've been Tricks. Catch me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon. Spray painting. I'm gonna be spray painting my tweets onto boxcars starting soon. And I will not be making a Threads account.
I'm Dominic. Catch me online at DACICHOCKI. Still on Twitter. Dominic Chakotay on YouTube if you care about that sort of thing. I'm also on the Games My Mom Found podcast sometimes. We did a Kingdom Hearts 2 episode a couple months ago, and that was fun. And that'll do it for us. Speak now or forever hold your absinthe.
I'm not gonna throw up.
Uh-huh. Sure.
No one asked.
Videos and watch some Minecraft Let's Plays.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.